It's red. Good. And then display control. Good evening and welcome to our 13th council meeting for 2021. Ordinary council meeting, the 9th of November 2021. So this is a council meeting where we elect our mayor for the next period, and I'll be the interim chair up until that point. So it's wonderful to be back in the gallery, in the chambers again, and seeing people in the gallery. So thank you very much for coming along today. So as I said, under the Local Government Act, I'm the interim chair. We'll go through the process and elect our mayor in accordance with our governance rules, and then from that point, the mayor will take the chair role of the council meeting. Item 2, recording and live streaming of council meetings. All council meetings are filmed with both video and audio being recorded. Video is recorded on a specific area, however, audio from the entire room is captured. By submitting a question in writing, you consent to your question being read aloud at the meeting. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and question time will not be recorded in the written minutes. The reasoning behind recording council meetings is, of course, to hold us more accountable and improve transparency of council decision making to our community. The full meeting is being streamed live on council's YouTube channel, which is Alpine Shire Council, and will also be available on the YouTube channel shortly after this meeting. Item 3, acknowledgement of traditional custodians and recognition of all people. Stand, please. The Alpine Shire Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the land, the Tuanga people and their ancestors. As the traditional owners of the land, we are now on. We pay our respects to elders past and present. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all. Thank you. Item 4.1, confirmation of minutes. It's recommended that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting, M12, held on the 5th of October, as circulated, be confirmed.
So moved.
Councillor Forsyth?
Second.
Councillor Nicholas? Any objections? All those in favour? Moved or carried. Item 5, apologies. There are nil apologies. Item 6, obituaries and congratulations. From my left, Councillor Keeble.
Thank you. Just want to note Jenny Howie, Bruce Howie's wife, passed away recently. Bruce is a long-time employee here at the Shire, and both Jenny and Bruce moved, I think, from Geelong area a long time ago, and she'll be sadly missed.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Councillor Nicholas.
Yes, I would like to acknowledge as an obituary a passing of Mal Stiles, who has been living in Tuanga for a number of years now, and his extended family is in a similar area. Mal had a very long commitment to the Mount Hotham Ski Patrol, and although that's not in the Alpine Shire as such, the Alpine Resort is obviously an important economic factor. I actually didn't get the number of years exactly, but it's over 40 years he volunteered for the Mount Hotham Ski Patrol and gave his best. And it was a sudden death and really sad for his family, and I offer them all the condolences I can.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Forsyth.
Certainly, thank you. I'd like to note the passing of Carl Stadleman, passed away on October the 18th. He was the head of a well-known Stadleman family and local earth moving and civil works company. Many in the Alpine Shire Council team grew to know and respect him over the years. Staff who worked closely with him remember Carl as a good man who stood behind the work he and his subcontractors did and was always there to lend a hand. Some of the great achievements that Stadlemans have actually achieved over the time. 2010 was the Back Germanton Road construction and sealing. 2011, Bennett's Trail. 2012 was flood remediation works, Lakeside Avenue reconstruction. 2013, Camp Street drainage upgrades. and the list goes on and on. Stadlemans have been a very integral part in a lot of the asset development and asset maintenance in the Alpine Shire. So sad to hear of his demise. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. Councillor Hughes.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to say big congratulations and thank you to the volunteer Treasurer Secretary Marilyn Stevens from the Bright Cemetery. She was in that position for 30 years and did an exceptional job, but she has stepped down and that has been taken over. So a big thank you to be put out to Marilyn on that one.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Vincent.
None, thank you, Mr CEO.
Councillor Prime.
No, none from me, thank you.
Councillor Janis.
No, thanks, Mr CEO.
Item 7 is declaration by Council of Conflict of Interest. Neil, thank you. Item 8 is public question. So before I go to the gallery, we have a question on notice here from Ms. Kitty Napstein, which I'll read out, which is Harriettville locals are concerned about the engagement process will not truly reflect their views about the log in Pioneer Park. Pushback is being felt from planners who want to relocate or get rid of it because it's in the way of the view from the proposed plaza. The log is not in the way, it is part of the view. It's part of the furniture and the majority of Harrietvillians like it where it is. Can Council assure the Harriettville community that they will be heard on this matter? Might hand to Director of Assets, Will Jeremy, to respond.
Thank you, Mr CEO. So we've gone through an extensive engagement process in the Alpine Better Places project, and the reason we do that is to hear from the community, so I'm delighted that we're hearing from the community. In relation to the log, we've had comments both for and against relocating the log. Council officers will consider all the feedback that we receive through this process and will formalise a recommendation which we'll then present to Council for a decision at the appropriate point. Thank
you, Mr Jeremy. I'll now hand to the gallery. So, any nods? No? Mr Dyer, please. And when you come there, can you please state your name and where you're from?
My name's Ray Dyer and I live at Ovens. A few years back, I don't think that long ago, Tuanga, I signed a petition for the toilet block at Tuanga opposite the store, near the Scout Hall and the tennis courts there, to be redeveloped. It was, I believe it's back in the 60s or something like that when it was first put there. Now, I don't know whether that's been done or not. Can anybody verify it has been or has not? Because there's a reason for that.
Thank you, Mr Dyer. Mr Jeremy, this sounds like it relates to the Alpine Better Places Tuanga project. Would you be able to provide some feedback to Mr Dyer, please?
Thank you, Mr Dyer. Charlie, CEO, Mr Bird is correct. So we're currently in the process of developing Alpine Better Places designs for Tuanga, and the toilet block that you're referring to is included in those designs. And as part of that work, at the moment, we're foreshadowing a refurbishment or renewal of that toilet block.
Well, the reason I wanted to know that was, I believe just recently we've just finished the refurnishing of Centenary Park toilets near the Rotary slide. Now, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that was rebuilt about 10 years ago, not back in the 60s. And now I didn't hear anything about it being done, and it's done. If that's the case, I don't believe it's fair for Tuanga to wait this long for their toilet block when this one at Rotary Park, Centenary Park here has been rebuilt. And I think the only reason it got rebuilt was because it was leaking water at the urinal. That's the first question. I have another second question.
It's a question and a statement, Mr Dyer, but I'll afford you one more question.
That's fair enough. I came up to Bright last weekend with the hot rodders, and I was absolutely horrified on the Backhoe Punker Road with the amount of grass. The height of that grass was over nearly 30 centimetres high. Have you got a shortage of outdoor staff?
No, Mr Dyer, we have got good staff, and I drove the Backhoe Punker Road this morning and I saw one of our team mowing it, so it'll be below the height you just referred to then.
Yeah, but I was also believing that it's a 2-week turnover for mowing the lawns, and having it 30 centimetres high is over 2 weeks growth, the same as the park at Ovens there, or at the intersection of Happy Valley Road. It needs looking at badly, especially the big truck marks that got bogged there the other day.
Thank you, Mr Dyer.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's good to see you in person again.
I'll be back, no worries.
COVID permitting. Okay, unless there's no more questions, we'll move on to item number 9. 9.1, which is 9.1.1 is the mayoral term. So the Local Government Act 2020 sets out the requirements of the election of the mayor, including the timing of the election and the lengths of the term. So in accordance with under the Act, a mayor can either, the term of the mayor can be 1 or 2 years, but no longer. In accordance with our governance rules, the first step is to actually determine the length of the mayor. So I'd like to call for a motion to set the term of the office of the mayor, either 1 or 2 years.
I move.
Sorry, Councillor Janus.
Thank you.
Yep. For 1 or 2 years, Councillor
I
Janus.
move for 1 year.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Vincent. Are there any objectors to that? Unless anyone would like to talk to that, I will take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 9.1.2, election of mayor. The Local Government Act 2020 also sets out the requirements for the election of the mayor. And it will be done in accordance with our governance rules. So I'd just like to firstly touch on the role of the mayor. So in accordance with Section 8 of the Act, the role of the mayor is to chair council meetings, be the principal spokesperson for council, lead engagement and municipal community on the development of the council plan, report to the community at least once a year on the implementation of the council plan, which is a new requirement of the new Act, promote behaviour among councillors that meets the standards of conduct set out in the Council Code of Conduct, assist councillors to undertake their role, take a leadership role ensuring that the regular review of the performance of the Chief Executive Officer, provide advice to the Chief Executive Officer when the Chief Executive Officer is setting the agenda for council meetings, and perform civic and ceremonial duties on behalf of council. The mayor is not eligible to be elected to the office of Deputy Mayor. So the specific powers of the mayor under Section 19 is that they have the powers to appoint a councillor to be chair of delegated committees, to direct a councillor subject to any procedural limitations specified in the governance rules to lead the council meeting if their behaviour of the councillor is preventing the council from conducting business, and to require the Chief Executive Officer to report to the council on the implementation of a council decision. An appointment, and finally, an appointment under subsection prevails over any appointment of a chair of a delegated committee by council. I would now like to call for nominations and a seconder for the office of the mayor. Calling for
Mr CEO, I nominate Councillor Forsyth.
Councillor Janus nominates Councillor Forsyth. Is there a seconder?
Second.
Seconder, Councillor Keeble. Councillor Forsyth, do you accept the nomination?
I do, thank you, Mr CEO.
Thank you. Before I'll see if there's any other nominations for the mayor. Calling for nominations.
Yes, thank you, Mr CEO. I nominate Councillor Nicholas.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent. Nominating Councillor Nicholas. Is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
Councillor Hughes, seconding. Councillor Nicholas, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the role of the mayor? No. Well, we have 2 nominations. So before I undertake the vote for the mayoral role, I'll look for each of the 2 nominated councillors. Maximum of 5 minutes to talk to their fellow councillors and to the gallery as to why they would like the role.
Why they're worthy of the role. Thank you. 12 months ago in this room, my fellow councillors gave me the honour of electing me as mayor. At that time, we talked about what had gone on the previous year with bushfires and the advent of COVID, and I made mention at that time that the following year, i.e. the year just gone, was going to be a year of recovery and building some better resilience within this community. I don't believe that that work has been completed yet. We've had too many hiccups along the road with more COVID things, and the new COVID normal is still a case that we are going to need a bit more recovery and or resilience to do this. I would like the opportunity to carry on what we've started. We've had some very good wins over the year with some of our policies, and I believe that we need to bed those policies down now, and I think that I would like to be in a position to do that and to take this council along on that journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. Councillor Nicholas.
Thank you for the nomination. Much appreciated. You all know my background. It's very strong in strategic planning and community engagement. In fact, strategic planning with community engagement. As well as being in a recovery phase, we are also on the cusp of some really important forward planning for the Alpine Shire. We'll shape the Alpine Shire for the next generation and beyond. If we get it right, we'll have less of things like the Western Gateway, Glenbourne Avenue in the Kiwa, and the Nil Gully flooding in the Lower Ovens area. To help to get it right, conversations with communities are really important. Informed by experts, informed by modelling. Two-way discussions, inclusive, compassionate, particularly in the recovery phase, but really listening. We've started doing that with the deliberative panel that we've set up. There's pop-ups coming up for a lot of the strategic work we're doing. There's pop-ups around the place, there's surveys, people are starting to be engaged. It's not time to stop and pat ourselves on the back. It's now time to have a bit of a look at the community engagement we've done, review it, and then continue to improve it. And take that continual improvement, adaptive management idea across the whole organisation. We can always get better. So my leadership has been characterised by focusing on people and processes in the past. So people in the organisation and people in the community. To support people with processes that enable them and to help them contribute in their, whichever way they contribute, either as a community member or as a member of the organisation, and to have them strive to achieve excellence for an outstanding Alpine Shire. That's me.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholas. We'll now move to the formalities of the vote. I'll, as Councillor Forsyth was nominated first, I would like to see a show of hands for all of for those in favour of Councillor Forsyth, Mayor. Thank you. I'd now like to call for a show of hands for all those in favour of Councillor Nicholas for Mayor. I'd like to declare Councillor Nicholas as the Mayor for Alpine Shire. I'll now vacate the seat. We'll move to the next item. COVID safe.
Did yoga? Oh yeah. Any of this?
Mayor Nicholas, I now invite you to say a few words as the new Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, and thank you everybody for the chance to lead. I'm humbled and excited at the same time. I'd like to start by thanking John Forsyth for his magnificent efforts over the last year and for putting in place opportunities to build on and keep to build the team. Looking forward, I'm really looking forward to working with our communities, to working with the Alpine Shire team, to working with the councillors as a team. and to sometimes work together and sometimes work apart, but to be heading towards great outcomes like strong communities, a smart economy, a recovering economy, service excellence, healthy environment, and well-used and appreciated civic places and spaces. So I think we're going to have a great year, and particularly as we climb out of the really hard places we've had and move into COVID normal, and it's great to be part of the team. Thank you. So now I need to move on to the next section, which is, I don't know the number, but it's the Deputy Mayor.
I can, it's, I'll, if you like.
Office and term of Deputy Mayor, yep, 9.1.3. Mr CEO, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Under Section 20A of the Local Government Act, Council may establish the Office of Deputy Mayor. And so the role of the Deputy Mayor is really to where a mayor is unable to attend a council meeting or part of a council meeting, or the mayor is incapable of performing the duties of the office of mayor for any reason, including illness, or the office of the mayor is vacant. Where council appoints the deputy mayor under Section 20A of the Act, the deputy mayor must perform the role of mayor and may exercise any of the powers of the mayor in the situations listed above. Council has historically set the term of the deputy mayor to match the term of the mayor. I'd now like to call for a motion to create an office of deputy mayor and set the term of the office of the deputy mayor to align with that of the mayor, so being one term.
So move.
Councillor Forsyth. Sorry, you say that.
Councillor Forsyth, and seconded by Councillor Vincent. Any discussion?
1 or 2 years?
Oh, the same as the
For 1 year.
aligned with the term of the office of the mayor, so 1 year. Yep. Any clarification or questions?
No, thank you.
Take that to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Not ready with this.
With the hard copy, do you? Yes, hard
Oh, yeah, in the red? Okay, thanks. So now I will call for nominations for the office of Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to nominate Councillor Hughes.
Seconder for Councillor
I'll
Hughes.
second that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. Councillor Hughes, do you accept the nomination? Yes.
I do, thank you.
Are there any other nominations for Deputy Mayor? There we go. Then we, I've forgotten the word.
Elect, declare the...
We call you elected. and Councillor Hughes, I'd like to offer you the chance to say some words too, please.
Yes, thank you. Congratulations, Councillor Nicholas, on the mayoral election tonight, and a big thank you to Councillor Forsyth, been a massive mentor for me over the last 12 months, and I think as a group we're all a bunch of strong leaders, and I think that giving everyone the opportunity to shine when and where they can is a really good value add in forever learning and evolving as a team. So thank you to you, Councillor Forsyth, for everything that you've given me so far. And I'm excited for the next, it's not just the next 12 months, it's the next 3 years that we have here on council term, and thereafter, if that's the case. And I think being able to step into this position is definitely going to be a value add in learning something new, and being brought into some further discussions to really see where we can go. So thank you very much.
Councillor Hughes, I'd like to invite you to swap places with Councillor Kewell.
Oh, sorry.
Try and get up on the big chair.
I got a lot of stuff under this desk right now, don't you?
And I don't want to be trying anymore.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I reckon that's your first time sitting up there.
It is. I'm tall for a change.
I'm going to try both. Excellent. Settled. So now we're up to...
Madam Mayor, may I interrupt?
Yep.
Thank you. I know it's not on the agenda, but I think in the history of the Alpine Shire, this is the first time that we have had a combination of mayor and deputy mayor in the female role. I'm not in any way being sexist or anything there, but I think it's a great opportunity and it's a great not an expectation, but it's a congratulations to the Alpine Shire that we can do these things without any problem. And it's something I just wanted to highlight that, you know, this is a first for us, and I just think it's just such a great thing
Here.
for
Thank you.
our gender equity and,
Yep.
and all of that. So it just means that we can all work together. There's not a problem with that.
Thank you, Councillor Janice, for picking that up and making a comment. Much appreciated. Anything else? Okay, item 9.1.5, contracts approved by the CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's recommended the contracts be approved by the CEO be noted. There are three here. One relating to the supply and delivery of bitumen emulsion, the other one to the civil road works and drainage at Treno Dredge Reserve Car Park, and the other one for a streetlight audit program plan to oversee the installation of LED street lighting across the Shire.
Yeah, so moved, Madam Mayor.
Moved, Councillor Janice. Seconder? Councillor Prime? Two hands. Councillor Janice.
Oh, no, it's purely operational, really.
Councillor Prime?
No, nothing from me. Thank you.
Would any other councillors like to make comment? Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was just, I'm struggling to hear Mr CEO. Is your mic working? I can't hear. Just try talking.
Sorry, is that feed?
I can't actually hear your mic. We're just wondering whether the gallery can hear you.
Try.
Hello. I won't talk much the rest of the meeting. The rest of the meeting is managed by the directors. I'll do a lot of watching, but I will endeavour to speak a bit louder. Thank you for the feedback.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we have contracts approved by the CEO, moved and seconded. No more comments. I'll take it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Okay. Now we are up to section 9.2. The first item is 9.2.1, Alpine Shire Event Strategy. Thank you, Mr. Jeremy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report relates to the adoption of the Alpine Shire Event Strategy and the actions which are to follow the adoption. We've been on a long journey to prepare this document. So back in 2018, we carried out a review of event delivery. And one of the key recommendations of that review in 2018 was that we develop some strategic documentation to guide future delivery of events. So to address this recommendation, in November 2020, we commenced the journey of developing the Alpine Shire Event Strategy. Over the last 12 months, we've carried out a lot of engagement with the community to try and establish what's important from a community perspective, both from the businesses and individual community members. And it's brought us at this point in the journey. So the council meeting, previously we adopted the draft strategy, and then there's been a bit of a process of receiving additional feedback from the community. So we had 69 submissions from the community on the draft strategy. 14 of those submissions were from community members from within the Alpine Shire, and 55 of those submissions were received from people who are outside the Alpine Shire. We've gone through a reasonably extensive process, as you're aware, councillors, of engagement with council to discuss how to handle those submissions that were received, and I know that councillors amongst themselves have had a lot of engagement as well to discuss some of those submissions. So in the report I've outlined what are the key changes that we've made to that draft strategy to address the feedback that was received. So I'll run through them very briefly. So the first was the introduction of an event funding categorisation process, which was separate from the permitting. So the draft strategy had the permitting and the funding processes combined, and what we've been asked to do, and which we've done in the final document, is to separate those, which allows a bit more discretion in where we apply funding versus where we allow permitting. And what that allows us to do is recognise that some smaller events might legitimately justify having larger amounts of funding, whereas in the previous way we'd set it up, the two were intimately linked, so the size of an event and the amount of funding it got were intimately linked, so we've changed that. We've applied some of the key permitting conditions we've applied across the Shire. So previously there were some very specific conditions which were targeted at Bright based on the feedback that we wanted to disperse events. So what we've done based on the feedback we've received is we've applied those conditions consistently now across the Shire, so that there's not a specific focus in the same way on Bright. We've very much had a look across the Shire to see how we apply those conditions fairly. We've changed the permitting threshold for high impact events. So this is the threshold above which an event would be considered high impact and at which those additional requirements would come into place. We've increased that from 5,000 to 6,000 attendees. And we've also introduced some changes into the medium impact event category, and the key one there is discretionary referral of those medium impact events to the risk assessment panel. So what we heard through the feedback and through the discussion with council is that the way that we'd set the thresholds, there was potentially impacting on some of our existing events, and the discussion that we had with councils was how can we modify those thresholds without losing the intent of the thresholds and the way we've set up the categorisation, such that we reduce the impact that those changes are likely to have on our existing events. So it's facilitating existing events whilst at the same time implementing some of the key changes that we're trying to achieve through the strategy that's been implemented. We've made a change in the what we call a signature event. So previously in the draft strategy we had 7,500 attendees and above would be considered a signature event, and we've dropped that down to align it with a high impact event. And what this allows council to do, if there's an approach at any time by a new event organiser for a one-off or unique event, and there's something council want to consider and it would fall into the high impact category, it allows them to consider it above the 6,000 attendees. So it provides a bit more flexibility to council to consider those high impact events. And finally, we've introduced a specific review time frame for the strategy. So typically our policies have a four-year time frame for review, so that forces us every 4 years, or 2 years or 4 years, but typically 4 years to revisit the policies. We don't typically have that for our strategies. However, the feedback we've received, it would be good for us to nominate a time frame to give clarity to the public around when we will be, revisiting this strategy at the latest time. So we can always revisit the strategy sooner, but it sets a kind of an end date when we'll revisit the strategy. So those are the key changes that have been made to the draft and accommodated in the final document that we're presenting to you for adoption. Stakeholders that have made a submission have been provided with feedback on how their comments have been addressed. So that's happened since Friday when we put up the council report. We've been in touch with the submitters to let them know how their comments have been addressed. And that really takes me through to the recommendation today, which is that council adopts the Alpine Shire event strategy. And it's worth noting that the event permitting and funding conditions will apply to events held from the 1st of July 2022. That's when it'll kick in. Council develops an action plan to be finalised by 31st of January, addressing the key themes, strategies and opportunities which are identified in this strategy, and that Council then prioritises the projects and the programmes which are listed in the action plan, identifying resources and budgets required to deliver each action.
Is there a mover? A seconder? Moved by Councillor Vincent. Seconder? Councillor Hughes. Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Jeremy, for the background on the 12-month process for this document and for us newer councillors, maybe the most significant amount of community feedback, which I think is great. Like it's been really fantastic to see. Sorry. To see community members contacting us. When I think about events, they're absolutely critical to our culture, our community, our visitors, our economy, and there's so many different stakeholders with so many different needs, and finding a balance that would fit has not been an easy one, and I think the officers have done a fantastic job constantly going back to the drawing board in a way after discussions and reworking it, delaying it to get it to this final point. I really commend that work and think that the feedback that's been given to us has been taken on board in a way that hopefully can meet that middle ground for residents and visitors and event organisers. I think the officers have done a really fantastic job, and it will be reviewed. It's a live document, so as time goes on and our shire grows, over the years, I'm sure it's something we'll be looking at, frequently as well. So, well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The event strategy has definitely been one that I think that we've received the most community consultation on. I urge people when these documents come out and you do provide feedback to read the document that you're also providing feedback on, because there's a lot of misinformed information that can go out there when people start discussing things. So I really think being armed with the information and being well informed can create better discussions and better outcomes in these type of things. Our community events, Shire-wide, are a massive value add, and it's not just for our community members, but it's also for our visitors as well. So new events that will be entering into our space and existing events that are in our space are a massive value add, and we want to see them thrive and continue throughout this process. As Councillor Vincent said, it is a policy and times do change, so adapting to the growing visitation rates and things like that will be taken into consideration and discussed along the way. So, just because a policy is set doesn't mean that there's not room to have a look at something if it doesn't fit anymore. So we also need to be mindful and considerate of the balance of these events as well, because although, there is a strong opinion of the visitors and the people who are locally attending these events, there are also people who don't necessarily always stand up to say that it's not something that they like as well. So we need to make sure that we are hearing everybody in our community and making sure that everybody's comfortable moving forward. So I really think the changes in this policy document that we have discussed at length is allowing that room for movement within the existing events, as well as capping that rate at a certain degree as well, to make sure that we aren't getting too big for our britches, so to speak. So thank you. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Any other comments? Other councillors? Councillor Forsyth.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. As my two fellow councillors have said, the event strategy has been a hard-fought thing. I think one of the important things about the event strategy, and I think Mr Jeremy alluded to it, is that we can have an event that might have 7 or 8 or 10,000 people and have no impact. We can also have an event that's only got 1,000 people and have a very high impact. So in the early discussion of this, those 2 points were not differentiated, but I think now in the new rewording, we have got that differentiation. I think that is very important, so that anybody who wishes to put on an event, when you apply for your permit, your event planning and what have you, it will be assessed against those lines. And I think that that is very important. Thank you.
Any further comment? Councillor Janus.
Madam Mayor, I think one of the reasons this has come before us is concern for community livability, and Councillor Hughes eloquently pointed that out as well in her comments. And so we must be careful that we also promote events and promote business, but we also consider the reason for why people come to our beautiful Shire is the livability. And so this in some way goes toward that, and I think it's a good balance. There has been a lot of toing and froing about this, and I thank all those people who have sent us communications by one way or another to view their views, and they have been listened to. And so, and the proof of that is in the amendments, in the actions there. But and you're right. Just because there are a lot of people who may not agree with something, there are also a lot of people who are the silent majority, and that is also whom we as councillors should represent and have that feeling that what is actually happening in the community as well from those silent majority. People are not always confident in speaking up about things, but I'm sure that we are capable of listening even if they can't speak up or are not capable of speaking up in a public forum. And I think this document goes a long way to protect their voices as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Would you like to close, Councillor Vincent?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes. I'll take it to vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. Carried. Okay, item, just want to wait, 2.2.2, draft sport and active recreation plan. Mr. Jeremy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report relates to the public exhibition of the draft sport and active recreation plan. Council recognises the significant benefits that can be achieved through participation in sport and active recreation, which includes improved physical and mental well-being, the development of strong social connections, increased demand on local businesses to supply goods and services, and a greater appreciation of the natural environment. The draft sport and active recreation plan aims to provide a strategic framework to guide Council's investment in sport and active recreation over the next 12 years. So that's 3 terms of Council, so the current term and the following 2 terms. And based on advice we've received from the consultant who's been working with us, who've worked with a number of other councils, it's a timeframe that's worked well in terms of planning for infrastructure into the future. So we've developed this plan in consultation with key internal external stakeholders. It's supported by a strong evidence base, and it aligns closely with the strategic directions which are contained within the council plan. I'll just touch on the consultation that we've done to date. So we've engaged with the community throughout the development of this draft plan, and the engagement has included 199 survey responses, 504 unique visits to our website where we shared the information, 2 community sessions, 34 responses on social media. We've surveyed 42 clubs, and we've had 11 stakeholder meetings with those clubs, and we've also engaged with 8 state sporting associations, schools and local government authorities. So there's been quite extensive consultation to date. That's brought us to the draft plan, and that's the next stage in consultation then, which is to put that draft plan out for public consultation. So put it back out to the broad community and ask the question, have we got it right? What's your feedback? What changes do we need to make so that it accurately reflects what our community would like to see? So the recommendation tonight is that Council endorses the draft sport and active recreation plan to be placed on public exhibition for a minimum period of 28 days. The Council invites public submissions regarding the draft sport and active recreation plan, reviews and considers any submissions received, and then considers a recommendation to adopt the sport and active recreation plan at a future meeting of Council.
Kelly Prime is moving the motion and Ron Janis is seconding it. Kelly. Sorry, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Don't worry, I think I've done that as well before. Is that clear enough? We're good? Lovely. So I don't get to say this very often, but I know a few people looking very forward to having a look at this when it comes out, which is really nice to see. We've had a lot of interest in it, which is great. It's a very long-term plan. We're looking at the next 12 years here. So it's great that there's already been that interest. So I implore people to pore over it, have a good look, tell us what you think. There's some really important stuff pointed out here. One of the major issues facing us beyond COVID is there is definitely a significant obesity epidemic in this country, worldwide. I'm not naive enough to think that something like this will address the whole problem, but just increasing inclusiveness, people's ability to get out there, getting rid of barriers, giving them more a chance to be active. And I suspect there's a little attachment there from the Victorian Population Health Survey. They're generally self-declared surveys, so most often the statistics are actually worse than is actually indicated, so I suspect those rates are actually a lot higher in reality. The other important thing to look at going forward is there's a massive drop-off in females' participation in sport beyond high school. So these things are really important to look into it, see how we can improve general participation. And yeah, so please everyone have a good look.
Thank you. Councillor Janus.
Thank you. I was going to point out the Victoria Population Health Survey. 45% of adults in the Alpine Shire are insufficiently active. 59% of local residents are overweight compared with 51% of Victorians. 26% of our local residents are obese compared with 19% of Victorians. And it sort of goes on and on in relation to being overweight, etc. We do provide and have got a number of great sporting facilities in our Shire that are supported by Shire, and we continue to try and improve that. But we've also got a terrific natural built environment, tracks and trails. You don't have to be a member of a sporting club to be active. There are many organisations that one could join to be active and to have mental health well-being as well as physical well-being, which go hand in hand in my view. So like with the previous item on the agenda, it would be good to have people have a good read of this and take note and offer suggestions to Council so that we can have a good plan going forward. And if we have a good plan going forward, we can promote that to government as well to seek funding for improvements of whatever that might be. And I also should point out that the state government have supported us with $30,000 grant through the Sports and Recs Victoria Local Sports and Infrastructure Fund. Council have funded this with $30,000 to bring it to a total budget of $60,000. So we're putting our money where our mouth is with the support of the government, and we thank government for that. So please, people, have a read and give us some feedback one way or another, whatever is your best way of communicating with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Councillor Hughes.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Kind of reiterate what's been said, we urge you to really have a look into this. I know that there's a lot of community engagement on this with a lot of the sporting clubs, which I think is fantastic because essentially they're, seeing things from the inside. So I'm really urging the sporting clubs to have a look at this, but I'm also wanting individuals to be having a look at this too, because sport doesn't always mean that you're doing it as a team or in a club. It can be solo. So I really want, we want as much information as we can have from various different groups on this one. Being a mum of 3 active little boys and this plan being set for the length that it will be, it's going to be seeing my children through the rest of their primary and high school and probably once they're gone. So I really am invested in this one on my own as well, as a parent, to see my kids active and out there in what it is the Alpine Shire have to offer. As Councillor Janus said, we've got our hills, we've got our trails as well. So really being inclusive Alpine Shire-wide on this one, I would be really interested to see what comes from this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors like to make a comment? No? We would like to close. Kelly, no. Thank you. Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Ask the question first. Thank you. Item 9.2.3, street sweeper purchase. Mr.
Thank you,
Jeremy.
Madam Mayor. So this report relates to the purchase of a second-hand street sweeper. In the September 2021 council meeting, council delegated authority to the CEO to purchase a second-hand street sweeper that may become available at auction or by a direct sale process with a maximum purchase price of $220,000 plus GST. And we also committed, in the event that a purchase is concluded, the agreed purchase price will be disclosed at a future council meeting. So I'm pleased to advise that we have been successful in purchasing a very well-maintained second-hand street sweeper. And what I'm recommending this evening is that council notes that the purchase of a second-hand Rosmec Scarab street sweeper has been concluded for a purchase price of $125,000 plus GST and a total on-road cost of $146,854 plus GST.
Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Prime. Any...
Well done.
Councillor Prime. Any further comment? We'll take that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Next item is discontinuance of government road, item 9.2.4, Mount Beauty Airport.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report relates to the discontinuance of a government road, which coincides with the location of the proposed extension of the Mount Beauty Airport runway. So this is the second time that Council have seen this particular item. So back in the September Council meeting, we presented a detailed background and a recommendation that Council adopted that we essentially provide notification of an intent to close the road. Tonight, the recommendation is that Council notes that no submissions were received on this proposal to discontinue the road. The Council discontinues 7,451 metres squared of road, which was shown in the Council report, in accordance with Clause 3A of Schedule 10 of the Local Government Act 1989. The Council authorises the Chief Executive Officer to take all actions required to discontinue the road, which includes publishing the notice in the Government Gazette, and that Council disbands the committee which was formed to hear submissions under Section 223 of the Local Government Act 1989.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. Seconded, Councillor Prime. Councillor Forsyth.
One thing, Mr Jeremy, I believe that the actual road is much slightly bigger than what is actually required across the airport strip. So the extra land goes back into private property, is that correct? Or the extra part of the road?
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. So the process that we're following here will ultimately see Council own the full extent of that government road. So what you're correct in noting is that the road extends beyond the runway land. We've had an engagement with the adjacent landholders to seek their interest in purchasing from Council those sections of road which overlap into their, essentially adjacent to their land that they own. And they've indicated an interest in doing so. So when we've concluded essentially the closure of the road and the sale has occurred and it's within Council's ownership, we'll then progress through those next steps to essentially make that land available to sale, which will follow another process of public advertising before the sale is concluded.
And I would assume it's a rezoning as well from a roadway to farming.
That's
something.
correct.
Yep, thank you.
Councillor Prime.
Oh, the only thing I have to add here, I suppose, is this is all part of the Mount Beauty Airport upgrade. So probably just goes to show everyone how much of a process is involved in these things. They are not short processes, lots of boxes to tick. This is just another one to tick, and so we can keep moving forward with this big project. That's all from me.
Thank you. Any other councillors like to make a comment? Councillor Keeble.
Well, I think it's from 2005, the process. Still going, nearly getting there. It'll be a great outcome. Saw some photos recently, aerial photos of the work being done, and it's a major project, so it's looking good. Thank you.
Any further comment? Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Next item is 9.2.5, backhoe loader purchase.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report relates to the award of a contract for the supply and delivery of one new backhoe loader for the Porepunkah transfer station. So having said it's for the Porepunkah transfer station, the need is arising in the Mount Beauty transfer station, where we currently rely on the engagement of a contractor to carry out stockpile management and other works in the transfer station. And this includes pushing down skips, pushing up and moving other stockpiles, concrete, green waste, mattresses, fridges, etc. So we're currently spending about $20,000 per annum in the Mount Beauty transfer station on stockpile management. The contractor that we've engaged is very competent. However, he has competing work commitments, and sometimes there have been occasions where we haven't been able to engage the contractor at the time frame that we need. The other change that's happening is that as a result of the Environment Protection Act 2017, which came into effect on the 1st of July 2021, the obligations on us to manage those stockpiles is increasing. So there are stricter requirements on the management of stockpiles. And our expectation is that the cost of managing those stockpiles in the Mount Beauty transfer station is going to increase over time. So having assessed the cost we're currently incurring and what we expect to happen into the future, we believe it is more cost effective to purchase a piece of plant to enable us to manage our own transfer station operations than it is to continue to rely on a contractor to do that work. So that's the first part of the picture. The second part of the picture is we had a look at where we have existing plant, where it's being utilised, where we could be better utilising it. And what we've seen that in the Porepunkah transfer station at the moment, we have a 5.5-tonne Hitachi excavator, which is doing a reasonable job, but there are other tasks that it could be doing that it's not very good at because of its size. What we're proposing is to relocate the 5.5-tonne excavator from the Porepunkah transfer station into the Mount Beauty transfer station, where it is very well suited to the range of tasks and the materials that we need to move around there, and to allocate the budget that was allocated to Mount Beauty transfer station, solving the problem there, to a piece of plant that will go into the Porepunkah transfer station. So that's the second part of the picture. The third part of the picture, as I've alluded to in this report, is again when we look at where we have different pieces of plant within council and how we utilise them. And we have a civil works team that uses, very heavily utilises civil works machinery. They have an existing backhoe loader, which is very well suited to the work that's required in the Porepunkah transfer station, and they use it very extensively. So what we're actually proposing is to purchase a new backhoe loader, allocate that to council's civil works team, relocate the civil works team backhoe loader into the Porepunkah transfer station, and relocate the 5.5-tonne Hitachi excavator into Mount Beauty transfer station. So it's a long story, but ultimately what we've seen is an opportunity to save costs for council into the future by purchasing a new piece of plant and reallocating our equipment in the most sensible way to achieve the best outcome for council. Recommendation this evening is that council awards a contract for the supply and delivery of one new JCB 3CX Elite backhoe to Construction Equipment Proprietary Limited for the lump sum price of $203,450 plus GST.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Moved Councillor Janus, second Councillor Forsyth. Councillor Janus.
No, good use of resource, Mr. Jeremy, of moving the pieces around in that'll give maximum use for our full-time staff using specialised equipment like that. Having been on the back end of one of these for a little while, it's good to have a nice piece of equipment to handle, a nice new piece of equipment, and I'm sure that they will all be suitable for the tasks required. I recommend the motion.
Councillor Forsyth.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Jeremy, just a clarification. Is it a loader that you're purchasing, or is it a backhoe that you're purchasing?
It's called a backhoe loader.
It is actually called a backhoe loader.
Yes.
It's a bit confusing, isn't it?
It is confusing, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for your other extensive three-part harmony. That was lovely.
Any further comment? It was a bit like a chess move, I think, really. Okay, we'll take that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. The next item is 9.2.6 Tuanga Caravan Park Upgrade Buildings Design and Construct, Stage 1.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report relates to the award of contract CT 21100, which is for Tuanga Caravan Park Buildings Design and Construct Stage 1. So councillors are familiar with the background. This is a significant project that we're delivering in the Kiewa Valley, funded by the state government to the amount of $2.1 million. And we're gradually working our way through the various design and construction contracts that are needed to deliver this project. So tonight we've actually got 2 contracts which we're proposing to award. One is stage 1 of the buildings, and then the next one is other infrastructure works. So we've been through a public tender process, been out to the market, evaluated. We had 27 prospective tenderers for this one, and we had 5 conforming tenders. So we got a very good response from the market to the tender that's been put out. And the stage 1 works includes upgrades to 2 amenities buildings in the Tuanga Caravan Park. So having followed the assessment and gone through assessment process, we've determined that the tender from Joss Facility Management best met the selection criteria for this contract. Now, there is one significant issue to flag to the councillors in relation to both this and the subsequent report that we're presenting, and that is that as we have worked our way through the scoping of this project, what we've established is that there has been some latent conditions that we've learnt about in relation particularly to electrical systems, underground systems, that have meant that the budget that's allocated to the project, $2.1 million, which is state government funded, we are going to have a significant challenge delivering the full project scope within that allocated budget. So the approach we're proposing is to award stage 1 of these contracts, which is works which we cannot deliver a successful project without delivering these works. So these are the amenities buildings upgrade, and the subsequent recommendation is for the underground infrastructure. In order to keep the project moving, to keep the project critical path activities moving forward. So that locks in the schedule, but it allows us a period of time in which we can work through these challenges that I alluded to with this scoping and the costing of the additional elements of the project, and then for us to bring back to a subsequent council meeting, which is likely to be the December council meeting, to talk you through what the additional scope is we need to deliver and the challenges that we've seen in delivering those within the available budget. So that's the approach that we're proposing, and the recommendation to council this evening is that council awards contract 2110001, which is Tuanga Caravan Park Buildings Design and Construct Stage 1 to Joss Facility Management for the lump sum price of $504,998 plus GST.
So moved.
Yep. Moved by Councillor Keeble, second by Councillor Prime. Councillor Keeble.
Great, thanks. Mr Jeremy, the team's done a great job in regards to getting the awards and the
ducks lined up.
Yeah, the ducks lined up. Oh, I've just lost the word. Looking forward to the project starting. I walk past there most mornings and the old buildings aren't there, so looking forward to the building construction's happening. And I know the town and the Kiewa Valley are looking forward to the project commencing in good haste and seeing the outcome for next summer. Yep.
Councillor Prime.
Yeah, in a similar line, I know a lot of people are waiting to see this project come to fruition, so good to know the ball's rolling and things are happening. I'm sure a lot of people have seen just the fences up at the drive into the caravan park there. So we're getting somewhere, which is good to see. Everyone will be very happy.
Further comment? Councillor Janis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr Jeremy, going forward, is this like an old house we're renovating, and as we dig up another floorboard we find a bit more rot, or we think we're on top of this now?
Thank you, Councillor Janis. It's a very good analogy. So we think we've dug up all our floorboards and we know what's sitting underneath them at this stage. Yeah, but you're exactly right. When we entered into the project and we did the scoping based on what we could see at the time, we've had some learnings along the way about scope that wasn't immediately apparent at the start of the project, and that's the challenge that I've alluded to, is how we work our way through that.
Right, but officers are confident that they've now found most of the problem, 99%?
I wouldn't like to put a percentage on it, but we've scoped the full project and we believe we've got a very good understanding of what's needed to deliver a successful outcome.
Thank you.
Further comment? Take that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. The next item is the second part of the Tuanga Caravan Park upgrade, in-ground services and infrastructure, stage 1. Thank you, Mr Jeremy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this one looks very familiar because this does again relate to the Tuanga Caravan Park upgrade, and this one's the, again, it's a stage 1, so it's the works that we absolutely have to do. We're very confident that we can't deliver a successful project without delivering these works, and we need to get them underway in order to keep the project on the critical path. So that's the in-ground services and infrastructure. And stage 1 includes electrical supply and distribution, which includes new switchboards, sewer drainage, fire protection works, including the water storage tanks and reticulation, potable water reticulation, gas reticulation, and street lighting upgrades. So that's stage 1, and then stage 2 subsequently will include stormwater reticulation and management. So this tender went through a full public tender process and also got a very good response. So 29 prospective tenderers sought information on this tender, and we got 6 conforming tenders. Now, we went through the tender assessment process, including a tender assessment panel. We interviewed the tenderers, and following the assessment, the evaluation panel determined that a tender from JOS Facility Management best met the selection criteria. So those observant amongst you will notice that that's the same tenderer as we're recommending, or as you've just adopted for the previous recommendation. So JOS actually provided us with a discount if they were awarded the 2 tenders. They would have been the recommended tenderer without that discount, but when we combine the 2 tenders, then there's a benefit there for council of having the same contractor. And it also makes it easier to manage works on site, having one contractor delivering works across the site rather than having multiple contractors and having different areas that they're responsible for. So in terms of our ability to safely manage the site, that's a real plus, as well as being of financial benefit to council towards both of those. The recommendation is that council awards contract 21131, Tuanga Caravan Park in-ground services and infrastructure stage 1 to JOS Facility Management for the lump sum price of $510,126 plus GST. One thing I'd also like just to mention, because I have received a question around the time frame for the project, so I think I'd like to just clarify. So the important date for the community are the September Victorian school holidays. So council is working towards having this facility open to the public for the Victorian school holidays. Now, in order to do that, we need to deliver the project to a date ahead of that, because we need to allow time essentially to get a team in there who gets the park ready, set up to be able to operate the park. So the date that we're working to from a contract perspective and from delivering the project is earlier than that date, but from a public awareness, it's the Victorian school holidays that is the target date for having the park fully open to the public. And of course, we'll do earlier than that if we can, but that's really, you know, from a public viewpoint, that's the date that you should keep in mind.
So moved.
So moved, Councillor Prime. Sorry, Councillor Keeble, and seconded Councillor Prime. Councillor Keeble.
The word I was looking for before, Mr Jeremy, was tender process. I just couldn't find it in my
Nothing that ducks.
And yes, the tender process in this one, yes, there was 2 different ones. I think the outcome in the end has been terrific. So thanks to you and your team for negotiating through that. We're all looking forward to the work starting, and that's the September school holidays.
September school holidays, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Councillor Prime.
Yes, so just a question around the timing, because I think we were potentially given a date earlier than that originally, so now we're headed towards September school holidays, is that correct?
Thank you, Councillor Prime. So the project team hit some challenges working through the engagement with North East Water around the infrastructure that's needed to put in place to get the wastewater up to the rising main on the Kiwa Valley Highway. So when we entered into this project, we had an understanding that would be a relatively straightforward process, and we understood the parameters that would be applied to the design. And as we worked into the detail, as quite often happens, as you get into the detail, that's where the devil sits. And it took us quite a bit of time, and because that was a key component of the project, we had to get that all nailed down before we could really move into what you're seeing now, which is the rest of the infrastructure in the park delivering that. So that's why you probably see a later date in terms of that September school holiday than potentially the community were aware of prior to that.
Thank you for that. So as far as the discount goes, this is really good, because we just heard in the previous item that it's going to go over the $2.1 million budgets. So anywhere we can cut costs, the better. So that's really good to hear. And again, everyone is very excited to see this finally going ahead. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Any further comments? I'll take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. The next item is 9.2.8, Dinner Plain Snowmaking Design Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report relates to the award of a contract for design services relating to the Dinner Plain snowmaking infrastructure. So a bit of background here. In April 2021, Council sought funding of $3 million from the state government from the Regional Infrastructure Fund, and this was to deliver the Gateway to Alpine Adventure Dinner Plain snowmaking project. In June, we learned that we were successful with that. So that's a $3 million project which is fully funded by the state government, which is fantastic for our Dinner Plain community and all our visitors to Dinner Plain as well. So we're working our way through the project. This is the tender for the design services, and this has been through a public tender process as well. Again, we got a very good level of interest from people wanting to learn about the tender. 27 prospective tenderers had a look at the information, but we only received one response by the closing date. So one response makes it harder for the officers because it's nice to be able to compare, two different tenders or multiple different tenders to look at the pricing. So we have to then work our way through a comparison against Council's own internal estimates to understand whether we're able to deliver value for money for Council or whether we need to go back out to the market. The teams worked through that process, and in that process they've established that this was a good tender submission, and it does deliver value for money for Council, and the recommendation is that the tenderer, Foresight Engineering Services, has met the requirements of the contract, of the tender. So recommendation this evening is that Council awards contract 2101601 for Dinner Plain snowmaking design services to Foresight Engineering for the lump sum price of $225,334.86 plus GST.
So moved.
Thank you. Moved Councillor Vincent. Seconded by Councillor Keeble. Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Jeremy. There's not many councils who get to sign off on snowmaking facilities, so it's pretty unique and super exciting. And firstly, a thank you to the state government for awarding us that $3 million. Just what that can do for our Dinner Plain community and our whole shire and visitation is just fabulous. And I mean, this is the design process. We've got to get the design right. So it's the first step in something that I think will carry over many generations, and yeah, I'm just thrilled. So well done. Congratulations.
Thank you. Councillor Keeble.
No, I concur with Councillor Vincent, and it's terrific, the funding that's come along. Looking at the projects there, it'll be terrific once that's up and running. So this is a necessary part of this project, is to get the scope up and running with the design. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? No. Take that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Jeremy. We're now moving on to section 9.3, Director Corporate Performance, Helen Havercroft. And our first item is 9.3.1, CCTV Surveillance Cameras Policy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The regular review cycle of Council's policy register means that the CCTV surveillance camera policy version 4 is due for review. The review of the CCTV surveillance camera policy ensures that any proposed expansion of the CCTV network in council-owned, operated or managed sites will continue to receive a thorough assessment prior to approval, whilst enabling an efficient approval process. The review of the CCTV surveillance camera policy has been undertaken by council officers, and it has essentially remained unchanged since the previous versions. A review of the policy was undertaken in November 2017 to allow the addition of the Bright Sports Centre, and since that last review, an additional location has been approved by the Chief Executive, being the Myrtleford Library, following its refurbishment in 2019. So this evening, the recommendation to Council is that they note that there's no major changes to the CCTV surveillance camera policy. They revoke the CCTV surveillance camera policy number 93, version 4, adopt the CCTV surveillance camera policy number 93, version 5, and align and seal CCTV policy 93 at the appropriate stage of this meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Janis. Seconder? Councillor Vincent, thank you. Councillor Janis.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. In this day and age, it is important that we keep our data updated, our CCTV policy and personal information. One question I have for Mr Havercroft is how long do we keep the information for, the data that's on that CCTV?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Janis. So, in accordance with our internal procedures, CCTV footage is erased after 30 days, unless there's been an incident of some sort. So it can be kept for up to 15 years if it's part of an investigation of misconduct, performance management, or if it's related to property security, accidents, damage or illegal entry, we keep it up for 7 years. This is in accordance with the Public Records Act 1973 and the Common Administrative Functions Retention and Disposal Authority, PROS 0701.
A very concise answer for something off the top of your head. Havercroft, you're a welcome member to the team.
Thank you, Councillor Janis.
Councillor Vincent?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Any further comment from other councillors? Take that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 9.3.2, complaints policy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council is required to develop a complaints policy before the 31st of December 2021 in accordance with the requirements of Section 107 of the Local Government Act 2020. The purpose of this report is to present the complaints policy to Council for adoption. The complaints policy was developed with reference to the Local Government Act, recently released Victorian Ombudsman Council and Complaints a Good Practice, as well as taking a look at complaints policies in other councils across our region. The development of the complaints policy is an important step in providing improved customer service to Alpine Shire residents and ratepayers. The recommendation that the policy be adopted now, but come into operation on the 1st of January 2022, provides council staff with the opportunity to roll the policy out across the organisation and to ensure that staff training and follow-up guidance is available for all those that may receive and have to manage those complaints. The recommendation for council this evening is to adopt the complaints policy version 1 in accordance with Section 107 of the Local Government Act, noting that the policy won't come into operation until the 1st of January 2022, and to sign and seal the complaints policy at the appropriate stage of this meeting.
Moved, Councillor Forsyth, seconded, Councillor Hughes. Thank you. Councillor Forsyth.
Thank you. Just a question through you, thank you, Ms Havercroft, probably to the CEO. When you record the complaint, how robust is the system in the background, i.e. in the way of our CRM or our, how are we recording it and how are we then acting upon a complaint?
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. I'll just demask. It's nice to get it off for a moment. So we have a new CRM which we implemented on the 3rd of December last year. We still have, there are still some outstanding elements to that system which are yet to be delivered. So the system is robust. There are still some outstanding elements which will improve the functionality of it, one of which will be a community portal where members of the community can much easier provide CRMs and also make bookings and other things. So only today I was talking to the person who reports to the CEO of Datacom, which is in New Zealand. They employ about 7,000 people, so it's something which is front of mind for us as an organisation, and we want to, and we need to be delivered shortly. Thank you.
Councillor Hughes?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. These type of policies, I think, are really important to be able to have for reference for many reasons. Let's face it, people don't usually ring up the council to tell us we're doing a wonderful job. So I think processes like this are very much needed for that structure from both sides of it to know exactly you know, how it's going to be dealt with and what processes it will go by. So I stand by this one.
Mr CEO would like to comment. Okay.
I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Hughes, are you suggesting we have a congratulations and a thank you policy?
I tell people all the time, you need to tell us when we're doing something right as well, because if we are applauded for the things that we're doing right, we'll do more of them. So we know we want to be guided in the directions of what's working, what's not, and I think it takes a team to be able to do that. So yes, I wouldn't say no to something like that.
Thank you. Councillor Janus.
Two things. Should come around and hang out with us at Myrtleford a bit. Yeah, we get lots of praise, don't we, Councillor Forsyth? Look, just because we don't have a policy doesn't mean that we don't have an area, a process where people can make complaints and be dealt with accordingly. This just formalises it more. That's what I'm probably stating more than anything else, not asking. I know we have policy, we have processes in place for complaints, but to have a policy to meet the guidelines of the Local Government Act 2020, we have to have this in place. It just shores it up, basically, in a formal way. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? No. Take that one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Next item is Planning Compliance Policy 9.3.3. Ms. Hovercraft.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council is introducing a planning compliance policy to enable council authorised officers to enforce the Planning and Environment Act 1987 and the Alpine planning scheme in accordance with council direction. This report relates to the adoption of the planning compliance policy following community consultation and public exhibition period. The draft was brought to the 5th of October council meeting, and since then it has undertaken a period of public exhibition. Council received one external submission during the public exhibition period, which was positive and supportive of a policy, suggesting that we should definitely have a policy for planning compliance. So the recommendation this evening is that Council adopts the planning compliance policy version 1.2 and signs and seals the planning compliance policy at the appropriate stage of the meeting.
A mover and a seconder for the motion. Thank you. Moved Councillor Janus, second Councillor Vincent. Councillor Janus.
Not much to say. We've had public consultation on this already. This is an important policy because the way Alpine Shire is developing with our buildings and infrastructure going forward, there needs to be, Council have seen the need to have more oversight, some more formal oversight into these processes, and I think already our compliance officer is overworked and hoping to bring things under control more quickly than not. So anyway, that's all I need to say on that. We've said enough.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to quickly add to that, yeah, I think it's necessary. We have a fantastic compliance officer, relatively new, and I think this policy will really help to give guidance to our community, to developers, outline rules more clearly and outcomes, and I think that clarity of communication will bring about better outcomes for everyone. So I think it's excellent.
Thank you. Any further comment? Take that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. The next item is the draft Domestic Animal Management Plan 2022 to 2026.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the report relates to the public exhibition of the draft Domestic Animal Management Plan 2022 to 2026 required under the Domestic Animals Act 1994. It's a requirement of the Domestic Animals Act 1994 that every 4 years the Council undergoes a thorough review of its domestic animal management plan, and that is this piece of work. So the local laws officer and coordinator have been working on the plan and the actions that will sit underneath it. There's 9 objectives within the draft animal management plan, and we're now seeking to, so the recommendation this evening is that Council endorse the draft animal management plan 2022-26, place the draft domestic animal management plan on public exhibition for 28 days, inviting public submissions, and after reviewing and considering any submissions, adopt the draft animal management plan at a future council meeting.
Mover is Councillor Vincent. Seconder, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Helen Croft. Sorry, getting my madams and misses mixed up. Yes, this is a really important one as well, in my view. Our fairy companions, as I said on our very first council meeting, are our residents too, and a lot of this is prescribed by state government, but I think it's a really important document for our community to read and give us feedback on. I have read through it, and we've already made some changes to it that I think have been really positive, and I just encourage community to get in and give us your thoughts on this, so that we can best serve our fairy companions for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Nothing further, thank you.
Any further comment? Councillor Keeble.
Thanks. Our furry friends, yes, they are. Having a rat-tat-tat on the window yesterday and someone saying, come and get your bunny rabbit, it's escaped again. Well, the girl's bunny rabbit. Took us an hour to get it. Anyway, I wanted to point out in this particular draft, there's a little section in there about investigating into the cat curfew, and I guess foreshadowing that there will be some community consultations along the way. Obviously, this one will have probably some wide community interest. Cat owners love their cats. People that don't have cats and have other native animals in their gardens don't like cats generally when they come and visit. So there'll be some good conversations, I think, around about this cat curfew. So for anyone that's listening or knows people, have a look at this because it will have some effect down the track.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Any further comment?
Yeah.
No, take that one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. The next item is 9.3.5, Climate Emergency and Community Climate Action Plan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of the report is to respond to the Climate Emergency Declaration motion put to the 5th of October Ordinary Council meeting. The report outlines the preliminary resource and costs required to develop a roadmap for Community Climate Action Plan. This report provides an estimate of the resource and cost implications of developing a detailed roadmap of the priority activities, community engagement, resource costs and time required to develop and implement a Community Climate Action Plan. A high-level roadmap overview was developed to indicate the extent of community emissions contributors and required initiatives together with some of the assessment of their potential prioritisation. The resource and the cost identified in this report are to develop that roadmap overview further. The Council has the expertise to develop a Community Climate Action Plan. However, these resources are fully committed until at least January 2023, with a focus on the implementation of the Corporate Climate Action Plan and the FOGO, Food, Organics and Garden Organics Curbside Collection Service. The impact of declaring a climate emergency will bring forward this scoping work by 6 months at a cost of about half an FTE plus $65,000. This evening, the recommendation to Council is that Council notes the resource and cost implications of developing a Community Climate Action Plan.
Thank you, Ms Havencroft. Mover. Councillor Vincent. Seconder. Councillor Keeble. Thank you. Any comment?
Just to say thank you so much to the officers who've done the work on this, which was very quick, and really fantastic work to Sarah Buckley and the other officers involved. I think got us in a good place to really start to look at the implications and budgeting and considerations. Well done.
Thank you. Councillor Keeble.
I concur with Councillor Vincent. It's going to be great to see the FOGO curbside collection, the process has been well and truly started, with the conversation, but it'd be good to see it actually up and running at some stage, and this will help with that as well. So I'm looking forward to that. I can always remember Councillor Jan Bonnock saying, we want FOGO, we need FOGO. And I can hear her saying that in my left ear. So I'm sure there's a lot of people looking forward to how that's going to run out.
Thank you. Other comments on this report? Councillor Prime.
Yeah, again, I congratulate the team, Sarah Buckley in particular, on, geez, they got this to us quick. And it was very in-depth. I think we were all fairly impressed that day we saw it. Something that's mentioned a few times in here is the community engagement, community consultation. I think that's pretty important to take the community along with us on this one and get an idea of where it's at and where people want it to head. So really interesting to see how that will go and how that'll be delivered.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Any further comments? Councillor Janus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I concur. The amount of detail that was presented to council laws at briefing session was quite good, or was extremely good, in fact, over a short period of time that they had to do this. But it does highlight the fact that our resources are fully committed until January 2023, with the focus on the implementation of our own corporate climate action plan, and of course we said the FOGO, which are two very important issues. I think the community can do work for themselves in the meantime, I'm sure, to work toward their own carbon emissions reductions. But once we get our own house in order a little more, then we can reach out further and help the community reduce their emissions as well. So it's all not going to be done in one day, but at least we've had the forethought to recognise that we are in a position where something needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Further comments? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Council leading by example in this one with the Corporate Climate Action Plan and the FOGO, and that forever evolving piece when it comes to this topic is a really big value add here. When it comes to a community climate action plan, this is a whole lot bigger than a corporate plan, and we need to make sure that we're getting this consultation and engagement out there so that people are aware of what it is that they can do and how they could implement those things, because we can't be forcing people to do it. We want to be involving people in it. So I think it's very important that we take the appropriate steps throughout this process, and it will be a forever changing and evolving piece as we go along. So I'm really excited to see where both sides of this can go in the near future.
Further comments? Take that one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried, as a noting. The next item is 9.3.6, Climate Council's Cities Power Partnership.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to note that Council has become a member of the Cities Power Partnership Programme. The Cities Power Partnership Programme is a free national programme run by the Climate Council. It aims to provide local governments with the tools, knowledge and connections to make meaningful actions on climate change and capitalise on the global shift to a clean economy. The work of the Climate Council and Cities Power Partnership Programme will provide access to tools and expertise to support the delivery of Council's Climate Action Plan pledge to have net zero emissions by June 2023. There's no cost for joining the programme, and reporting is undertaken through an online survey that takes approximately 2 to 3 hours to complete. This evening's recommendation to Council is that Council notes it has become a member of the City's Power Partnership Programme.
Move Councillor Forsyth, seconder. Councillor Hughes. Any comments? Councillor Forsyth.
I think just as read, it makes sense to do this with everything else we're doing with our climate action plan.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Agreed. Thank you, Madam Mayor. As it says in the document, you know, joining this program in Australia is a representation of over 60% of Australia's population. So it just moves in motion with everything else that we're moving towards as well. So thank you.
Any further comments? Councillor Keeble.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I will say that in joining the program, if we vote for it, we join the noting that to join the program, that there's some actions on 5 pledges across the areas that include things like renewable energy, energy efficiency, sustainable transport, collaboration and advocacy. It's being noted, I guess, that here in the Alpine Shire, we're already committed to taking relevant actions as part of the climate action plan that we voted on a few months ago. So, we already meet those pledges. So they're might be new pledges, I don't believe. They'll be pledges that we've already got voted on in the action plan. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Keeble. I'm going to take this opportunity to say too that the Victorian Energy Collaboration that the Alpine Shire has joined recently to purchase renewable energy has been put forward as a to potentially win an award under the City's Power Partnership program of Climate Council. So watch this space. Any further comments on the item? We take it to vote, noting all those in favour. Carried. Thank you. Next item, section 10, is informal meetings of councillors, which there were 3.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Move and second. Any comment?
As read.
Right.
Just that it's nice to actually see what people's second half of their bodies look like instead of doing it on the screens all the time. Be nice.
Fair enough.
Any comments? Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Next item is presentation of reports by delegates, for which there are none written. Anybody have any verbal? No? 12, general business from my left.
Can I, pardon me, Madam.
Sorry.
I just wanted to point out to the public that this is another, an additional item on our agenda, which we haven't had for some time. It just gives councillors an opportunity to brief other councillors and the public of delegations that they've had of interest that are not of a confidential nature, to share that information within the community. So into the future, no doubt, as we progress out of COVID and we're allowed to have more meetings and conferences, etc., we can report back on those items.
Thank you, Councillor Janis. Appreciate it. You ready? General business.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to point out recently, obviously we had Halloween and a lot of us went out trick-or-treating with our children. I dressed as a giant unicorn, which was very warm because it was fluffy. But first of all, a big shout out to everybody that did get involved in this. Obviously, there is a lot of respect being had. Every year it becomes better because some people don't want to participate and some people do. So there are questions asked. There is a lot of that respect going through the housing areas where if there's no decorations or something outside, then people just skim by without any door knocking, which I think is very important. and you know, people are very generous in this space too, and it was really, really nice to see the community come together and enjoy something in the groups that they were, and I really applaud everybody for being so respectful. On the flip side of that though, there's always, you know, one or two that might try to spoil that season as well. So I'm just really urging people to educate their families on etiquette when it comes to these things. Don't dive in the bowls and take them all, so that when you're 16 years old, when there's children that are 3 who just want one, those type of things. But my darling little 6-year-old and I spent the entire trip back to the house filling my pockets with the rubbish that was off the back of that as well. So he was he was better than I, probably because he's closer to the ground and can see them, but I was walking home filled with rubbish because, being COVID friendly, a lot of the lollies are now individually wrapped so that they're not being handled by people. So, you know, I love the respect that's been given so far, but I just want that forethought on these future things that go ahead, that we just need to be mindful of where we're putting our rubbish and the respect that we have for our environment as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Forsyth.
No.
Councillor Keeble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, congratulations to Sarah on being elected as Mayor today, because we don't get a chance to talk earlier on in the night, so well done. Sarah has, you know, been the Deputy Mayor for, is it 4 years, 5 years? I can't remember. So has helped out a lot over the journey. So congratulations, looking forward to your term and what you do. And yeah, looking forward to that. And then also to Councillor Hughes for putting your hand up. It's daunting after just 1 year as councillor, so but well done. No doubt that both of you have the skills to work with all of us and the community, so congratulations on there. Well done. And to John, I know John would have loved to have done another year. He wouldn't have agreed to the nomination, and John has done a great job. It's not easy to forget. We know that, you know, last year was the start of the bushfires and COVID, and we know that Pete Roper was that mayor in 2020, and then John's been mayor in 2021 for most of this year, and it hasn't been easy. It's been a long road, and John's done a great job with the community. There's probably been lots of conversations that I'm not, you know, privy to, because everyone wants to talk to the mayor. So I thank John for all the work that he's done. And, you know, those sort of votes, you know, and people out there and in the gallery, you know, it's good to have a vote sometimes. And in my journey the last 14 years, there's been a few votes for the mayor. It's interesting to note, and Councillor Janice pointed it out, that, you know, it's probably the first time that the Shire's had a female mayor and a female deputy mayor. I can see the Shire of Bright Board over them. I don't, and we've got the Myrtleford one as well. So I think that that's the case. And, you know, people might be wondering why only 1 year. John's just normally, you know, but there have been occasions. I think Councillor Vonax did 1 year, and Peter Roper did a year. And in all the time that I've been on council, it's about 14 years, I think 10 of the years, the mayor's been in Myrtleford, so Councillor Nino, Mortone, Councillor Vonax, Councillor Janice, Councillor Forsyth. I think Peter Roper's been mayor for 3 or 4 terms. In my whole time, there hasn't been a mayor, and this is not the reason I voted for Sarah, by the way. I'm just pointing that out, because we're pointing out interesting facts. It's the first time there's been a mayor from the upper Ovens Valley in the last 14 years that I can remember. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm right with that. So look, it's good to spread it around, and I know that John, like all the other mayors on the time, when they don't become mayor, they work really hard making the councillor. So I just want to say thank you for your work.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Keeble and Councillor Forsyth.
I had another one. I didn't think it was. I thought you could take all the lollies. We got to a house last, and the owners had lots of lollies, and they said, "Can you please take them, because we don't want to eat them." So we did take the whole bowl.
Nice. Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tony, Councillor Keeble took a lot of what I wanted to say, so I'll try not to repeat too much, but I did want to say a huge congratulations to you on the being elected as Mayor. I think you'll do a tremendous job, and to Councillor Hughes on being elected Deputy Mayor. I think that's really exciting. What I do want to say is something Tony said to me on the phone a week ago is, aren't we fortunate to have a group of councillors where any one of us could lead, and that we've got a cohesive group who can always be respectful and work together, which is just fantastic. And I want to thank our former mayor, who's done a tremendous job. This was not an easy vote. This was really because we've got a great group of councillors, and I think you've done a fantastic job at leading us, and especially in the behind-the-scenes stuff. You know, chairing meeting, yes, but briefing sessions and getting all of our voices heard, making sure that we do stay on track. It's not an easy task, and us new councillors have learnt a lot. And yeah, thank you. I look forward to continuing on the learning journey.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent. Councillor Prime.
Yeah, a couple of things tonight. I'll continue on with what everyone else has said. Congratulations. Thank you to Councillor Forsyth. Congratulations to the new Mayor and Deputy Mayor. Just wanted to do a quick shout out to Deputy Mayor Hughes. It's not easy juggling everything. I think a lot of people wouldn't realise your life has to be pretty flexible. You have to have, if you've got a day job, your day job has to be pretty forgiving and flexible. I know at work I'm often just, ducking out between clients to take phone calls and things like that, and so I hope people are patient sometimes and we don't get back to you straight away. And Councillor Hughes also has 3 children. So I have 1 and I think I'm busy enough. So,
Are you aspiring?
no. So good on you for putting your hand up and doing it. It's a massive juggle. And I also, just to see younger people having a go, I don't think Councillor Hughes or Vincent will yell at me when I say I don't think we're that young, but we are young in terms of councillors. So it's good to see younger people putting their hand up, and I hope into the future, with future terms and elections, that more younger people continue to do that. I think it's really nice. Another quick congratulations. I noticed a few football and netball clubs have had their Best and Fairest awards recently. Pretty lousy season, really, pretty stop-start, so good on them for getting to presentations with whatever they could. And let's just hope next season we get a little bit more out of it. So quick shout out to all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Councillor Janice.
Not much left for me to say.
Of course there is. Should have gone backwards and forwards.
Yeah, doesn't matter. I certainly want to congratulate you both again on that, and certainly Councillor Forsyth for the work he's done. One of his big challenges in his time was the Teams meeting, Zoom meeting, and the technology that you have to know how to run a meeting on a little screen like this, and that in itself is a learning curve. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that because our meetings would have been very short. But it's a great evening, and congratulations to you all. So, are you going to keep the car that's got the Alpine Shire on it sticker?
I'm not sure yet.
I think you should.
I might put an Alpine Shire car on my electric one.
Okay, that's it. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Councillor Janice. I didn't have any general business except that after all the thank yous, I wanted to just add my voice to the thank you to Councillor Forsyth and pick up something that Councillor Vincent said, which is about really all of us are leaders, and to lead a bunch of leaders. Councillor Forsyth is, I think, one of the most challenging things you can do. So you've done a fabulous job of bringing the team to where it is, and I really, really appreciate that. And to continue working with everybody would be great. So that's me. Mr. CEO, do you have any general business? No. Okay. The next item is motions for which notice has previously been given, and the item is 13.1, Climate Emergency Declaration.
Madam Mayor, sorry, who reads the motion? Do you want me to read the motion? Okay.
My understanding would be that somebody would move it and speak to it.
Okay, I move it.
I second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'll read out the recommendation and then say a few words if that's okay.
Yep.
So the recommendation is that that Council recognises that the world is in a state of climate emergency that requires urgent and sustained action by all levels of government, including local government. Point 2, that Council embeds climate change mitigation and adaptation actions as described in the Alpine Shire Climate Action Plan 2021 into day-to-day operations and all future strategies and reviews as efficiently and quickly as practicable. Point 3, notes the indicative roadmap for community climate action provided by Alpine Shire officers and allocates resources to determine and prioritise community climate action initiatives as soon as possible, but no later than the 2022-23 budget, and advocates to the Australian and Victorian governments to resource local governments and communities to empower transition to low carbon economies. So if I can just add a few words, the climate change movement has been growing in momentum, especially in the last couple of years, and that's globally. And so in many ways today, I personally see this declaration as a really important symbolic moment where our council can take the opportunity to unite with over 2,000 other jurisdictions around the world who've acknowledged the climate emergency and the collective challenges that it presents for all of us now and into the future. When I was running last year for council, it was one of the major topics that I discussed with community members and business owners, and I believe that it's a really important issue for our community and one of the biggest challenges that we're facing collectively. Also, when you think about the extreme climate events that we've seen in our beautiful Shire with fires and floods over the last 20 years, and chatting to Councillor Keeble recently, you listed off the dates quite well. It's quite frightening, and we do know from the science that they will continue. So I'd love to just see us on the front foot, acknowledging this, taking all the action we can within reason, making sure that we're budgeting prudently, but making this a priority. So, yeah, thank you for the chance to speak to that.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent. Councillor Keeble.
We've had the Alpine Shire Action Plan that we voted on a while ago. We've entered into a power agreement of sort of a certain word that will see our Shire carbon neutral by 2023, which is a fantastic effort. And then we've just voted on just earlier some of the actions in regards to the finances and how we're going to play out some of the immediate actions that we're going to do. So I commend this recommendation.
Further comments? Councillor Forsyth?
Sorry. I think just a clarification, going back to what the Director of Corporate Performance actually said or recommended in the Climate Emergency and Community Climate Action Plan. We haven't voted on doing any of that stuff yet. It's just Council notes the resource and cost implications of developing a community climate action plan. So we haven't voted on actually spending the dough yet. This comes in this particular one here, where we're actually making a commitment to resource something to do with the Community Climate Action Plan in the 22-23 budget. And I think that that's fine. So, yeah, that's all I had to say.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Forsyth. Any further comment? Councillor Janus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Over the years, we've had a number of discussions around the briefing table in relation to this topic. And admittedly, there's been pushback about this and the terminology used. Climate crisis, I suppose, comes to mind myself. But seeing what's happening in the world and reading the scientific papers, listening to scientists who know, whose job it is to know, we have to, in many things, it's like our current pandemic, we listen to the experts to be able to take action going forward. And I think this is one of those moments. Last time we said that this came before council, we stood it down until tonight so that we could get a clearer view of what the implications are. I think we have a clearer view of what those implications are now, and that was the point of the exercise. So we still have a limited resource that we can throw, but we are doing things, and I'm a person, I suppose, known for doing it rather than just talking about it. And that's the important thing. Just do something about it, just don't talk about it. And I encourage the whole community to get on board with that and do something. Just don't whinge and demonstrate and do nothing. So I think we've come to a good point now in our with council with these words, and I thank yourself and Councillor Vincent really for putting this together. And I have no qualms about supporting the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Councillor Prime.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the term climate emergency declaration is often seen as a bit of virtue signalling and words without any follow through. So I think that's probably a concern I had coming into this. So we just chucking a few words out there and then there's nothing to actually back it up. So I think if you're going to make a declaration like this, there needs to be something behind it. We've had discussions about the terminology on whether it be climate emergency, climate crisis. I personally think we can do all these things we've put out in the plan without making the declaration. However, there's good arguments for it as well. And like Councillor Forsyth said, we've simply noted the plan previously, and this is actually putting something into action and into place. It's the way things are heading, really. It's where everything's heading. I think a really important one of this as well is number 4, advocating to federal and state governments for resources. It's probably going to be one of the biggest barriers, I suppose, to getting more things done, because these things require money, basically. So, thank you again to Sarah Buckley and the team for putting the plan together, and it's really nice to see, like Councillor Janus said, we put this off from October wanting something a little bit more solid in front of us to actually look at and work with, and I do feel like we've got that now, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Councillor Hughes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. What I loved about this process is that no one held back. Everyone had a point of view, everyone wanted answers to their questions, and everyone felt comfortable in doing so. And the reason it was put off is because we wanted to have some solid information behind us before this declaration was put forward. So I thank you all for the discussions that we've had to date on this. As Councillor Prime has said, this is the way it's heading. And with the resources in state and federal government, I think that it's going to be a big thing. But there was a poster on my wall in my primary school Year 5-6 classroom that said, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And I really do live by that a lot with most of the things that I do in life. And I really think that, if we continue to push and have a really strong view, then we will get the answers and the direction that we're wanting to get in this one. So watch this space.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would actually just really like to hear from you. You have, as councillor, headed up this process. I think it's only fitting we hear closing from you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Vincent and I put this motion forward initially, and it has been an absolutely fantastic discussion, particularly the discussion around climate emergency versus climate crisis, and the push for climate emergency was mainly so that we joined up with the 2,000 plus jurisdictions and over 1 billion people who are represented by those jurisdictions to call it out for what it is. And as Councillor Jonas says, that is the way the world's going in terms of how it's being described. So I think that was fabulous to have all the discussions and to reach consensus there. The other thing that people have already picked up that I think is really important is that it is about doing. It's not about just making a bit of a noise and then going, oh, well, we've said it, so now we can just go back to business as usual. It is about inviting the community to come with us and to use our climate action plan, and it is very ambitious, and it will take some resources and effort and our incredibly experienced and competent staff to roll that out through the organisation as quickly as we're asking. But what a great example to take to the community and show what we can do and what people can do if they try and try again and aim high, which is my primary school motto, and never give up, which is that little kitten falling off the tree. So it is the way the world's going. I think COP26 is telling us that as well at the moment, with some really, really great agreements being made with some countries. It is a long emergency. It's a sustained action, and the report that we've been given shows us that. And I wanted to reiterate, even though we don't want to do business as usual and we don't want to be slow, it will be responsible and prudent and a sensible way to go forward, because we are a good team of leaders and we are responsible. So I think the other thing I wanted to say is that the final thing is that in 2019 we made a decision as council to put forward the proposal to prepare the climate action plan, the corporate climate action plan, so 2 years ago. So I don't think it is a bad thing to hasten this, even though it looks like it's only 6 months or a bit more. Really, the way local government works, things stretch out, so it's great to get the ball rolling as soon as we can. So thank you again for all the discussions, and unless anybody has anything they'd like to add, then we'll take the climate emergency declaration to the vote. All those in favour? Fabulous, I'm so proud. Sorry. Oh. That was unanimous.
Long time.
So, next item. Section 14, reception and reading of petitions. There are none. Section 15, documents for sealing. Councillor Janis. Councillor Janis volunteered earlier. And Councillor Vincent seconded. All those in favour? Carried. That's right. It's still full of ink. I think I just got a few beeps on the phone about that one.
I think that's got to come down.
Yes. So now the next item is confidential reports. So we'll be closing the public section of the meeting. So thank you very much for. Oh, okay. So I need to move in second that we move into confidential reports. Sorry. Thanks. Councillor Forsyth, you already knew. Councillor Prime, thank you. All those in favour? Carried. At 7:04.
Thank the gallery for coming.
Yep, thank you very much, Kiwi Travellers. And Ray?
Thank you for coming.
Yep.
Thanks, Ray. You too.
Yep, 7:04. Oh, I declare the meeting closed at 7:04. 7:05.
Safe driving.
Thanks.
Thank you.